Right, so today on Propulsion, I have none other than Johan Oosthuizen joining me for this interview. And today we're going to be talking about talents and strengths and just how you can really be the best that you can be and focus on the things that you're really just naturally good at. But also then, how do you hone those skills and how do you just take maximum benefit from that? And I'm looking forward to chatting to Johan this morning. Johan Oosthuizen, welcome to Propulsion.
Morning, Francois. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you in the audience.
It's a pleasure for us, and I've had the privilege of working with you over the last 3 months or so, and I just had to get you on. I actually wanted to get you onto Propulsion right in the beginning, and you said to me, no, first go through the motions and see what it's about, and then you decide. And every time we met, I think like this guy needs to come on to Propulsion. He needs to come on to Propulsion. And eventually we got to the point where you agreed to come onto the show. And thank you very much for that.
It's a pleasure, Francois. Thank you.
So let's start off with, I think a lot of people know that everybody's got some God-given talent or just some natural talent, however you want to put that. But we always tend to focus on our weaknesses and, especially if you do a SWOT analysis, it's always like, this is my weakness, so I need to focus on that and develop that. But I think from a strength point of view, it's actually better to focus on our strengths. And maybe before we go there, we can just start off with what are Clifton strengths about? And then maybe we can move on to that.
Yeah, Francois, the Clifton Strength Assessment, not a lot of people are aware of this assessment, but this assessment was developed already in the early 50s. And interesting enough, it was a life insurance company that asked Dr. Donald Clifton to do research for them on why do financial planners leave the industry. And we know out of our own experience that is true, that financial planners don't stay very long in the industry. And out of the research that this Dr. Donald Clifton did, it was clear that people stay in the industry for one reason: they are busy doing what they love doing. And that boils down to they are using their natural capabilities or their natural talents. And that's what they are playing with every day. But the way that we grew up is to mainly focus on those things, exactly what you said, that we struggle with, our weaknesses. And we always try and fix that. And that is not the best strategy to do that.
Why is that, Johan? Why is it not a good idea? Because it's easier when you sit with your manager or you sit with your own personal development planning and sort of like, what are the things that I need to develop or the things that I want to develop? And we tend to go to the things that we are not that good with. So why is it better to focus on your strengths rather than to focus on those weaknesses? Because, for some people, it makes a lot of sense to just develop what they're not naturally, or what they're not good at. I won't say naturally, but what they're not good at the moment.
I always use the example to say to people, if you look at a normal sprinter, Usain Bolt, for instance, he's got speed, natural capability to run the 100 meter below 10 seconds. So if you take Usain Bolt and you try and make a shot put of him, it's not going to work. He will never, ever be able to be the world champion and break the world record shot put. He's a natural sprinter. So for him, it's easy just to focus on that. It's not to say that he can't be a shot putter. Yes, you can, but you're not going to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
You're going to put in a lot of energy. You're going to waste a lot of time and spend a lot of money in the process, but you're not going to be the best. And what are the world looking for? They're looking for the best. People are prepared to pay for the best. Yeah. And that's why it's so much easier to focus on those things where you have the natural capability. You already have an 8 out of 10 for that. Focus on that and build that to a 10.
Yeah, and so, just having that natural talent doesn't mean that it's a strength, right?
That's correct, yeah. Talent is just your potential. It's the way that you naturally think, feel, and behave. And again, if you look at sport, we know a lot of people who have all the talents to be the best in the world. But that's just the potential that lies in each and every one of us. You have to do something with that talent to make it your strength at the end of the day.
And how do you go about doing? How do you start that process, Johan? If you like, I mean, some people just they know what their talents are. They know what they're naturally good at. But then you have those people who have no clue. Sort of like, they just feel like they're drifting through life and they don't really know what they're good at. There's nothing at school. They were never good at sport or anything particular that would stand out and would get them like, I know I'm good with this. Where should they start to sort of determine what their natural talents are?
Well, funny enough, life is giving you a lot of clues that you have a natural capability or a talent. And there are 5 indicators of that. First of all, yearning. In other words, you've got a natural sense to go for that thing. You've got a yearning to do that. Rapid learning is another way of telling you that this is maybe a talent and a strength. Things that you just start reading up and you quickly learn that skill, that's an indication of there's a talent, there's a strength. You've got a lot of satisfaction. You like to do certain things. Some people tend to do that, and it's easy to recognize that. And the other very common one is you start doing things and time just flies by. And when you open up your eyes, three hours is gone, and you think, what happened with the time? That's another indication. And many times, glimpse of excellence. Your teachers would say to you, but Francois, how did you do that? You stand up in front of a class of people and you give this unbelievable speech, and you didn't even prepare for that. So how did you do that? So life is giving you a lot of clues, but we don't recognize those clues. We don't think about it. And if you start thinking back over your life, knowing this now, there were many clues during your lifetime giving you those indications of maybe that is something that's a talent, a strength, and you should work on that. So that's the easy way of doing that. Another way is to go and do the Clifton assessment, an online assessment. You pay a couple of dollars for that, and that's a scientific way of giving you a full report on what are your natural capabilities. List from where's the strongest strength that you have and which are some of those other talents that's very low on the list. So that's not really naturally what you will do.
I mean, it's one thing there. I've done many of these tests. I've done many different ones in terms of personality and gifts, and I did talents or the Clifton Strengths Assessment myself as well back in 2015. And you get this very nice report, but you read through it and it says, okay, it's cool. And then you put it away and you never look at it again. What should one really do, to really get the best benefit? So it's one thing knowing, I guess that's the first step, is to at least know what they are. But what are the next few steps maybe that we can, or that one should take to sort of say, well, now I get a deeper understanding of all of this, etc. So, what would be important to focus on in that first part of when you become, or when you get to know what those talents are?
Well, you're right. The first step is to go and do the assessment and at least get a scientific report that's giving you that information. But it's like a financial planner. You do a needs analysis for your client. There's a 20-page document that you present to your client, and you can walk away, and nothing will happen with what you suggest your client should do around his financial position. Exactly with all these assessments. It's a great assessment. And what we say, the assessment and the report is just the start of the conversation. That's the first thing. You have to do something and you have to implement this stuff. Same with the financial needs analysis. You as a financial advisor is helping your client to take that information and start to implement it and monitor it and make sure that your client gets to where he wants to get. If you look at his finances, exactly the same day. So you need to do the assessment, go through all the hype of all the excitement, reading all the stuff, but then you're going to have to sit with someone that's qualified and certified in that specific assessment to help you to say, okay, what's the next step? How should I start implementing what I'm reading out of this, and how can I use it moving forward?
From that, when we started off with, there were three things that you said was very important in terms of this. It was like the knowledge part of it, the awareness and the understanding. If I can recall correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Can you talk a little bit around that and just how important those three aspects? I mean, there are many aspects that you need to do to integrate all of this stuff into your life so that it is something that you, because the ultimate aim of this would be to actually use your strengths and not just, I think I may be running ahead a little bit, but one of the like light bulb moments for me was when it was like, because I thought like, okay, so for instance, strategic is one of my top 5. So when I get to a problem, then I use strategic. When I want to come up with ideas, I use ideation. When I try and come up with a vision, I use futuristic. But it actually, that light bulb moment for me was when you said to me like, no, but how do we use these together? It's not just, because then you get that multiplier effect and exponential sort of results when you start combining these strengths. So can you talk us a little bit through that, just to sort of give an idea around that these strengths are not, it's not like you use one at a time. It's not, they don't work independently. It's actually you use it in combination if you want the best results.
Yeah, Francois, there are 7 milestones that we would like to achieve when we start with our talents and we want to develop it to become our strength. And the basis of everything is the first 3 that you've mentioned there. The understanding of those talents, what's the meaning of it? The awareness, because there's a difference between understanding and becoming aware of those things. And then you have to start to appreciate what is happening because of what you are going through. And from there, you're going to have to start to focus, and you're going to have to start to invest some time doing these things. It's not a once-off thing. You're going to have to really say to yourself, maybe every day you're going to put away 30 minutes to help yourself to read up on the stuff. You are talking about complementary partnerships. How do these things work together? And even how do your set of talents work together with people in your organization? Those areas where you struggle, maybe you should rely on your PA who's got some of those strengths that she can help you there. And then the other thing that's very important is what we call self-expression and self-regulation. I explain it as like listening to a song in your car. And if the volume is too high, it can be a lovely song and something that you really like. But if the volume is too high, it irritates you. You can't listen to the song. And the same happens with your talents. If the volume is too high, you start to irritate some other people and they can't listen to you. And I can use a simple example that many people know. It's a talent of communication. And sometimes you meet some people and you just want to say to them, can you just stop talking? You're talking too much. That means the volume of communication for that individual is too high, and they should tone it down a little bit. But yeah, it's all about the understanding, the awareness, and then you really start to appreciate what's happening.
Yeah, so I like how you said you need to put away time, because it's really an investment, right? Absolutely. It's absolutely an investment. But I like how you put it to say you need to put away time. It's not you need to take time. You need to put away time, because it's exactly what we do when we invest. So I think it's such a nice way that you've put it. Is it possible to have a strength and a talent, or let's say I have a talent and I've developed it into a strength, or that I am, just because I've been doing certain things for a long time, I've already developed some of these talents of mine to a certain level of strength. Is it possible to use that? Well, let me put it this way. Do I always use it to my advantage? If I have a talent which I've developed, do I always use it to my advantage?
Francois, it depends on where you operate. Is the volume too high, or what's happening? We're talking about, are you operating in a space of your talent where it will help you to accelerate in what you are doing, and that's where you want to operate? That's a good space. Or are you operating from a place where it's holding you back? And that is negative. let's use the talent of analytical. If you start to overanalyze stuff as a financial planner, that is not where you want to operate from. And that is a place where you have to take it from overanalyzing stuff to a space where it's great just to do the normal analysis of your client's stuff and take it from there. But you have to be aware of that. And what I've picked up over the years, and I've been doing this since 2002, many people, without even knowing it, are operating with their talents and their strength from a place where it's negative. But how do you know that? What will be some of the indicators for you telling you that there's something wrong? The first common thing that you pick up with those people is that they've got no energy. When you operate from that dark space of your talent and your strength, it drains you. It takes out all the energy that you have. But people ignore that. And the second thing that starts to happen when they stay there is when other people start to avoid you. You start to irritate them. The people in your office, your friends, your spouse, they don't want to be close around you because you're operating from a space where it's not great. So those are the two signs that clearly say to you, time out. What's happening here? Go back to your talents and look, where do you operate?
So can you give some examples, Johan, of specific, like which talents are most prone to operate from that space of negativity? So something that's actually a great talent to have, but it's easy to operate from that negative space.
Yeah, Francois, the typical one, and this is a big challenge for many people, is the one that we call responsibility. Those people that put up their hands and they, I will do it, give it to me. And at the end of the day, they've got so many things on their plate because of that attitude of volunteering for everything. So that's a typical one that people, what we say, mismanage that. And how will it look when you start to mismanage the talent of responsibility? You start to micromanage stuff. You get obsessed by stuff. You struggle to say no. You take on too much. That's the negative of responsibility. But what will it look like when it's in a great space, where it energizes you, people like you because of that? That's when you really take accountability. People trust you. You are very committed. That is the great space of responsibility. So responsibility is the big one. Many people have that, and out of my experience, 80% of the people struggle with that, the one that we call responsibility. Some others are competition. I mean, the financial services industry is an industry where the people are always competing with each other, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great thing to have. But if it starts to hold you back, if it drains you, then it's not a good thing. So competition is another one. Achiever. There are many people out there that always want to achieve. So those are the people that make a list of stuff. But that list is too long. And they can't work through that list at the end of the day. And they start feeling bad about that. So yeah, there are some of these 34 talents that are easily mismanaged and holding you back. But again, when we go back to those three things in the beginning, the understanding of it, become aware of it, and you start to appreciate it, then it becomes a good thing for you.
I maybe want to ask you some form of an unfair question, but I'm sitting here wondering, is there sort of a typical, let me just start with this first. How unique is my set of talents versus somebody else's? So if I have, let's say my top 5 is futuristic, ideation, responsibility, strategic, etc. So how unique is that to me? Or are there many people like me out there?
Francois, that is a very good question. And the nice thing about that is there's a list of 34 talents that we all have, but obviously in a different order. And if you look at the top 5 talents of any individual out there, the possibilities of finding someone else with your top 5 talents in exactly the same order is 1 out of 33 million. What I say to people is, if you look at South Africa, just over 60 million people, if we're lucky, there's one other individual in our country with your top 5 talents in exactly the same order. So, yeah, you are unique in that sense. When we start to look at further down in the list, what is the possibility of having the top 10 in the same order? 1 out of 12 trillion. And immediately you start to realize, but you know what? Out of 7.2 billion people in the world, there's really no one like you. You are the only individual with that unique set of talents and strengths. What I say to people, if you really start to understand that, that becomes your competitive advantage out in the world. No one can clone that. No one can teach someone else to have the same set of talents, and you should start working on that and using that.
Yeah, I don't think people get just how powerful that is and what that should do to your confidence, to know that you have this competitive advantage. If you work on it and you make it better, you're just going to benefit from that. Because even if me and the neighbor next door does exactly the same thing, we will never be the same person, and we will never do it in exactly the same way, although we do the same thing. So the unfair question I wanted to ask you, Johan, which I think is maybe unfair, but is there sort of an ideal sort of set of talents that the most successful advisors have? I know you work, I'm going to talk a bit more about who you work with and so forth, but in the work that you've done, have you been able to identify some form of an ideal profile, for the most successful advisors that you've come across?
Francois, that's also a very valid question. And the first thing that people have to know about the Gallup Strength Assessment, it's not a selection tool. So please don't use it to select people and to recruit people and look for that perfect profile. It's a development tool. So once you've recruited this new individual in your organization and you know their set of talents, you start to develop it from there. But to answer your question, I've been working with a lot of financial advisors over the last 12 years. And the funny thing that I pick up, this oak is number 1 in the organization. And he's working for a large financial services company. And you see this independent broker on his own, and you put their report next to each other. And what's the number 1 to 5 for the one oak can be the bottom 5 for the other guy. And it's just fascinating to see that. But what I've also learned over the years, those top individuals in any organization, in any position, one of the reasons why they are the top is that they know themselves so well. And that's what they are focusing on. If they know they are a sprinter, that's what they do. They sprint. If they know they're a shot putter, that's what they do. They don't try and be someone else and do some other stuff. They focus on their own unique capabilities and talents, and they know the inside out of everything. And that's one of the big reasons why they are successful.
That's very insightful. So, let's get to the next question in terms of, why should anybody listening care about this? A lot of, we are still a male-dominated sort of industry, unfortunately, at the moment, working hard on that to change that. But many men, I guess, would also go and this sounds a bit fuzzy and a bit soft to me. And I don't know, I don't want to get into all of this detail. Why should they really care about this? And anybody, I'm not just talking about men, but anybody, why should they really care about finding out what those talents are and then starting to work on it? Why should they care?
Francois, the sad thing out of the research from Gallup, and they've been doing this research for over 50 years, if you start to ask the question, how many people sit in any job and can honestly say to themselves, you know what, I get up in the morning and I really love going to my employer and do what I'm supposed to do there. the stats will point out to you that only 17% of people in the world are sitting in a job and they can honestly say that they are busy doing what they love doing. So just that stat will tell you, why don't you do the assessment, something like this, and from that information, start knowing that information so that you can also be one of those 17% of the people who really love what they are busy doing every day. The other 83% of people, if they are honest with themselves, will tell you they hate the boss, they hate the job, they don't like the pay. There's a lot of negative stuff around it. And the only reason is they are sitting in something and they are not using their strength most of the time every day. And what do we mean by most? At least 70% of your tasks that you do every day should allow you to use your natural capabilities or talents or strength to do that. Once you've got that magic, then you are happy and you enjoy yourself. And the bigger picture at the end of the day is you're starting to have a fulfilled life. Life is really just happiness and joy if you start operating in that way.
No, absolutely, Johan. And I'm thinking that one cannot really do this alone, although you can, I guess, but it's going to take you such a long time to get the understanding and the insight and the things that you need for things to click. It's like anything in life. Somebody took 10 or 15 years to figure something out, and then the people that learn after that can learn so much quicker when they go to that person who's already figured it out, and they can just show them what are the things that's actually important without every single person having to go through all the trials and tribulations and experiments and all sorts of things to understand what these things are really about. So from that point of view, one thing that I've realized is that, you know what, when I get help, it's so much easier for me. When I get help, I get through things so much quicker. And here was the biggest thing for me, and I want to share this story quickly, is that in the past, I had call it a business coach, and our personalities just did not gel at all. So I'm not going to get into the specifics about that. And I thought I'll just carry on my own and rather figure things out. And then I got to meet you, and what a breath of fresh air that was. So I thought when somebody introduced me to you, I thought okay, here we go again. It's the same sort of story. And what a nice surprise it's been for me to sort of have somebody that and I'm going to run it ahead a bit because I want to ask you, what did you do before this? But somebody that has experience in the industry, somebody that's got real, sort of empathy in terms of, when things happen, but you kept me accountable and you kept on checking in and you kept on asking. So you kept my mind on the things that we had to do, and it was difficult in the beginning. In the beginning, we sort of started doing the work and then you stop and then you start and you stop. But every morning I get that WhatsApp and then it goes remember the power hour, remember this, I remember next week we're going to talk about this. So it just keeps you on the path. And I tell you now, if I didn't have that, I would be exactly where I was 3 months ago. In fact, I would still be where I was the 1st of July 2015 when I did the test in the first place. So I think from that point of view as well, is that I would really encourage people to get somebody like yourself that is certified and that's got a qualification and that has all of this experience, but also who understands our industry to sort of help them through this process.
Francois, thank you for the compliment, but you spot on there. It's again, the financial planner. I can try and do my finances and everything that I want to plan for my retirement all by myself. And maybe I'm lucky and I'm going to get there, but the research will point out it's so much easier to work with a financial planner and maybe work with a financial planner that's well qualified, experienced in what he or she is doing. And why not the same for if you start working with a coach? And I know there's a lot of coaches out there or people that call them coaches. It's easy to become a coach. There's no regulation. But rather talk to someone that's qualified. I've done all the hard hours and work putting in for that. I've got my International Coaching Federation certification. I'm a member of the organization. So they held me accountable that I don't overstep the boundaries. And as a financial planner, I've been in the industry for 27 years myself. I know a lot about the industry. I know many people in the industry. About 80% of my clients are still in the industry. I just love the industry. And I'm just sitting in the industry with a different hat on. I'm not a financial planner anymore. I'm a coach, helping people to become successful in this industry because it's a great industry to be in.
Absolutely, Johan. And I think one of the things I learned over the last 3 years, really, of trying to build my business and building my business and making mistakes and doing things like that, is that if you are not the best version of yourself, you cannot build a business that is the best business that you saw in your vision and that you wanted to do. So you have to start with yourself. You can't, if you're not the best that you can be, then you're not going to reach the sort of or achieve the results that you want to achieve. So I think it is absolutely critical for people to be working on themselves and not just on their businesses, because we tend to focus on the business. We put money into the business. We see more people. We run around. We build a team. We do all these things, and then it doesn't always work out. And I think it's a lot of times because we don't know ourselves and we don't understand exactly how we are put together and the things that we should be focusing on versus what we should give other people to do. Because I guess the ideal situation would sort of to be like if you have team members or you have a spouse or whoever, that those strengths, if they complement one another, you can, like, it will be nice to dovetail certain tasks and focus on certain things. For instance, if I'm very strategic, but my spouse, for instance, was very like on the achiever side or maximize or something like that, where they would be the implementers of those strategies. Whereas I like to dream about the future and come up with ideas and make plans, but then who's going to do it? And I think that was one of my biggest challenges, is like, it took us a long time to do a lot of stuff until I realized, like, I'm not the guy to do all of those things. Maybe I should be focusing on delegating that to somebody who likes to get things done. And then I can just dream all day and just have a lovely life, you know.
Francois, yeah, that's a bit of a mind shift for many people that I work with, because we always think that we have to do everything ourselves. And we struggle to delegate stuff. But positive psychology, everything that the Gallup organization has been doing research on all over the years, is focus on those things that you have a natural capability for. You don't have to be the best in everything. And there's nothing wrong if you struggle with some of this stuff. It doesn't make you a bad human being. It's not your cup of tea. If you don't like maths, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to be strong in maths. You can do something else. Go and do drama and be the best actor at the end of the day. So that's when I sit with financial planners or any individual, that mind shift is the biggest challenge for them, to say, okay, guys, there's nothing wrong with you. Start focusing on those things that you really love to do. But remember, you can't ignore the things that you don't like. You have to do it. But you can get someone else to do it. You don't have to. And for that financial planner, ask your PA to do the other stuff. Or ask the junior financial planner or the para planner to do this stuff. You focus on the things that you really love to do and energize you every day. And that's why you get up in the morning with a smile on your face and the energy in your belly.
Absolutely. So earlier you mentioned that about 87% or so of your current clients are within the industry, and then about 13% is outside, obviously then. Are there some of your clients that you can just maybe share with us, like who they were and sort of that you've worked with them? I don't know, is it possible for you to talk about some of them?
Yeah, I can mention some of the names that's well known in the industry. And let's start with Wouter Fourie, who won the FBI competition in 2013, 2014. I was referred to him by one of his clients who was my client. And Wouter asked me a simple question, Johan, can you help me to win the FBI competition? And I said, Wouter, first do the assessment, then if I have a look at your results, then we can see. And funny enough, it came out for Wouter that his number one talent and strength is competition. And that just makes sense. So yeah, Wouter Fourie is one of the people that I've been working with over the years. Mariette Tappen, I think, and I know that she was on your podcast as well. I've been working with Mariette for the last 7 years. And if you look at her situation when we started to work, she was overworked, her health was not well, she was really struggling in that space of her life, and where she is today is a complete different person. But she's operating out of her strength 100%, and she's having a ball. So yeah, there are many such other examples that I can share with people if they want to know those people. And funny enough, those individuals said to me, Johan, people can phone me if they want to know from me what happened. I mean, you're also an example nowadays. What happened to Francois and you and your organization over the last 3 months, just having this new information and becoming aware of this new way and other way of thinking and operating.
Do you have to be long in the game to really benefit from this? Or like, does it not matter which, like if you're just starting out, if you're like still in school or you're just out of school, do you need to be in a particular phase of your life? Let me ask it like that, to really benefit from this, Johan?
Francois, the assessment can be done from the age of 10. So for the parents out there with young children, think about your younger children and let them do the assessment. Yeah, what I've picked up, each and every individual is unique, and it's like the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I've found out over the years, you can talk to some of these individuals out there and you can bug them on a regular basis and ask them to do the assessment. But if they are not ready, if the student is not ready, it's going to be an uphill battle. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you will know as an individual, you know what, for me, it's the right time now to start looking at something like this and start taking it to the next level and talking to a coach. Not everyone is 100% ready. In fact, when I talk to people, I ask them to fill in a questionnaire for themselves to see if they are ready to start with a journey, because it's a journey. There's no quick fix solution in this. And what I say to people when I work with them, I need a commitment from you of at least 6 months. And by commitment, I mean I'm gonna ask you every day, how's it going? What did you do? Did you read through some of the information? Did you do your homework? What's happening? I'm your accountability partner. That's what a coach is doing. I keep you accountable, but I need a commitment from you. So yeah, the answer is not everyone is ready. You will know when you are ready, and then you go ahead and you start doing something about it.
Yeah, now just on that point, Johan, I also want to add that, from a coaching point of view there, is that you need to understand that the role of Johan is two things, I think. One is guidance, to sort of like, do we understand, are we interpreting these things correctly? What are things that we may be missing? So there's a guiding thing. It's not so much a teaching thing. And then the second part is the accountability. But the person doing the work is you. It's not the coach. It's not Johan. It's Francois and Jonita and whoever that does the work. And that is very important. This isn't something where you go sit there and then listen for an hour or sometimes an hour and a half or 2 hours and you leave there, and then the next time you do anything is when you see Johan again. It's not that. That is one thing that I definitely learned. And there's so much value in that. In fact, what we started doing was, so in my team, so we've got quite a number of people that we started to work with. I got all of them to do their assessments so that we could get to know them better, because now that we understand this, I was able to understand their profiles better and understand so why or who's strong in which area. So now I'm giving a lot of stuff to Zinia to do instead of me doing it, because it's stuff that has to be done, but she loves it. I hates it, like Gollum would say in Lord of the Rings. So it's a case of that. And it's also then what we do is we sit and then we talk to them about the things that we've learned, obviously by working on our own stuff. And if I see the impact that that has, it's just amazing. So apart from that, what we started doing is now we are offering the free assessment. It's complimentary. When you join our Ignite program, you get it as part of that. Or if you attend any of our courses, you will also get a complimentary assessment, because I think the first step is I can't go out there and say, listen, I want to make an impact and I want to help change people's lives and things. But all I do is train financial planning. So what we do is we actually introduce them to this concept and at least show them what their top 5 talents are. Then from there, it's up to them what they want to do next. But just from that point of view, that is just how much I believe in the strengths, the Clifton strength stuff, and just because I've seen what it's done to my life. And I mean, I'm still early in the process. I mean, it's like you've been doing this now for many, many years. And if I listen to you, I hope I will get to that level of understanding one day. But the little bit that I do know at this stage, the difference that it's made in my life is just, it's unbelievable. I mean, we used to talk about all sorts of stuff in the car, but now these days we talk about this, Jonita and myself. So it's really something that I can honestly profess to. And that is the big reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast, is to share that with other people, to know that if I don't want to say if you feel lost, this is not a thing to help you find your way, although it is part of that. But it is to get to know yourself and to know what are the things that you should be focusing on. What are the things that you should be doing each and every single day? I think that is because that has been my thing for years. I've been looking for that. And this was the one thing that sort of got me onto that path. So I'm very grateful for Mr. Clifton or Dr. Clifton, I don't know, but that he came up with all this stuff and that they are doing all the research, and because it's really making a big difference. Johan, if people want to get hold of you, where can they get hold of you?
Francois, well, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so I would say go to my LinkedIn profile, connect with me there. You can have a link on the podcast where people can connect me. They can connect with me on LinkedIn. I prefer that, so it's very easy. Otherwise, send me a WhatsApp or send me an email, and let's take it from there. And there's no pressure. You're going to do the assessment on the website afterwards. There's a lot of resources that you can work through all by yourself. You don't even have to talk to Johan. And that day or that moment when the light goes on for you, you realize, you know what, maybe it's a good time to contact Johan now. Then we take it from there. And you make the commitment and we start working. And as I say to people, remember, this is a strength journey that you're going on. It's becoming part of your life. And what you are sharing today, I'm hearing it and I'm loving it. You are starting to have that strength language in the car and in the office, wherever you go. It becomes part of you. It's a way of living. And that's the only big thing that you can take from this. It's going to change your life in a positive way. And it's going to have an impact not just on you, on your family, your friends, your colleagues, everywhere that you go. You're going to have a huge impact because of you starting to know yourself so well.
I'm going to put all the contact details in the show notes, so you'll be able to find it on our website at www.propulsion.co.za/EP18. So EP for episode and then the number 18. That is where you'll be able to find this episode and all of the notes, as well as all the contact details for Johan, and also then sort of where you can do your Clifton Strengths. And I know the cost for Clifton Strengths just for the top 5 is roughly $350 because it's dollar-based. I think it's $20 or something like that, Johan. Correct?
Yes, Francois. There's basically 2 assessments. The one is the Clifton Strength one, and you can start with the basic one of $350 or $99. There's also the entrepreneurial assessment that helps you to understand how do you think about business and practice management for that purpose, for the financial planner, and then you start rolling it out from there. It's a journey. You don't have to take, exactly the same for financial planning. You don't come and tell me I have to spend 10,000 Rand and I have to implement everything today. you and I, as your financial planner, have a plan and you start to implement stuff over a period of time, exactly the same. Yeah. As I've said, I've been working with some of these financial planners for 3, 4, 5, 7 years that we are working together. And that's what I like to do at the end of the day. Become part of you and your organization or wherever you operate for the rest of your life.
Amazing. Johan, thank you very much for your time and for being on PROpulsion. I look forward to our journey ahead, and I wish you all the best. And thank you for everything you do for the industry and just for I think people in general. I hope everybody gets to you and have a chance to experience what we're experiencing. And we will chat soon.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity, Francois, and all the best, and enjoy operating out of your strength.
I certainly will. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.